Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Chanti. I'm from Pondicherry University. I'm a research scholar. Today I'm going to present classification of anti-phishing solutions. So before that, before knowing about what is anti-phishing, we have to know what is phishing. So phishing is a fraudulent activity in which the attacker tries to achieve the illegal financial gain either by stealing and spoofing user identity or credentials or by usurping control of access to the user information. So the initial stage of phishing, what they are doing, the phisher will send an email to the user stating that from your account there is a 20,000 rupees has been transferred. Please verify your account for this transaction. So when you click on that particular link which they are providing, it will redirect to a fraudulent site or a spoofed site which looks to exactly same as the site which the banking site is. It may be an SBR, it may be other banking site. So when you provide your username and other banking credentials, it will be taken control by the attacker. So this is the initial way the phishing has been done. So phishing can also be achieved through identity theft, unauthorized access, installation of malicious malware or spyware. So there are different types of phishing attacks like phishing at the user level, changing the host files where the IP address of the particular domain will be stored in our system. So they will change the IP address of the particular domain with a server which is under the control of the attacker. So anti-phishing. Anti-phishing is a method through which the phishing scams can be detected and prevented. So from the existing approaches, whatever they developed for phishing detection, they can be broadly classified into two classifications. That is content-based phishing detection and non-content-based phishing detection. So from that classification, from the study, we formulated 3 research questions. Like what are the areas that current anti-phishing solutions are addressing? So do the existing anti-phishing toolbars cover all the anti-phishing attacks? So what are the current research gaps that anti-phishing solutions provide? So anti-phishing solutions. As I said earlier, there are 2 types of anti-phishing solutions that are available: content-based detection and non-content-based detections. In content-based phishing detection, they mainly focus on the content. It may be an email, it may be an URL, it may be a website, or it may be a social media content. So in non-content-based approaches, what they are doing, like, so they list all the phishing URLs in a blacklist. So whenever we are clicking on a particular URL, they will just cross-verify with the list of the phishing URLs. So if it is matching, it will be listed as a phishing URL. If it is not, it will be a trusted URL. So these are some content-based phishing detections. It can be at the social media level, website level, email level, and at the DNS level. At the same time, for non-content-based phishing detection, at the email and website level. So this is the classification. These are the classification that we define, like from all the existing anti-phishing solutions. So it will be like content-based phishing detection and non-content-based. At content-based, it can be like detecting at social media, at the website content, email content, and at the DNS level. So for the non-content-based, it will be like email and website. So these black color and pink color are the approaches which are used for detecting phishing attacks. So these are the features, like based from all the existing works. So few are focused on email phishing detection, few focused on website phishing detection, few focused on social media phishing detections. So what are the possible features that can be used for detecting phishing? So this will be like at the email level, there will be like header features, URL features in email, word list features, structural features. Likewise in the website, there are some list of, these are the broad classification, and on each level, like in header features, there are some list of features which can be used for detecting phishing. So if you see, so the existing anti-phishing approaches. So as I said earlier, there will be like content-based phishing detection approaches and non-content-based phishing detection approaches. So in content-based, so either we can observe the behavior of the user so that we can detect whether it is phishing or not. So visual content similarity, like where comparing the images. So if you are visiting to a fraudulent site, so taking the screenshot of the particular site and extracting the image content or logo from that website. So and comparing with the trusted one, whether it is a phishing or not. So by rule based means like based on some conditions. So whether the URL domain name is instead of domain name, they'll use the IP address. So the URL will be like encrypted URLs. So whether the URL is having any special character like @ symbol or more number of slashes. So based on these rules, we'll decide whether it is a phishing or not. Like content similarity. So checking the email content. So machine learning based approaches, email metadata, pattern matching, and blockchain based. So these are the non-content based approaches. So using like blacklist, a list of phishing URLs which can be stored in there. Whitelist based approaches is list of trusted URLs. So checking the popularity of a domain. So restricted form filling. Restricted form filling is like so there will be a browser extension which will be installed in our system. So they will, whenever we are visiting the site for the first time, we'll give our username and password, which can be stored with that browser extension. Every time it is not required for us to enter our username and password. When you click on that particular browser extension, it will fill that data. So there is a problem, like if you do that, so all the credentials will be stored in that plugin, which can be compromised. So dummy content filling. In this approach, what they are doing, like before the user entering the credentials, they will just fill that login form with some dummy content. If the content is accepted by that particular browser, it means it is a fraudulent site, because it is not verifying whether the user credential which is provided is an authenticated one or not. They are not just verifying, they are simply just taking the credentials whatever they are entering. So if you check that user website rating and crowdsourcing, these are like whenever we are visiting a website, they are asking our feedback. So whether the site is trusted or not. Based on the user's feedback, they are deciding whether the website is phishing or not. So in steganography, they are using like a image which can be stored at the server side or the user side. So before logging, they'll just verify with that image whether it is a trusted or not, using one-time password, watermarkings. In the watermarking based techniques, the user will select, while registering for that particular account, he will decide what type of image he can choose, and the position of the image is in the screen. So while he was logging into that website, he can see earlier he decided the position of that image and the image. So if you are logging to the website, if that image is displayed over that particular position, he may confirm that the site which he is visiting was a trusted one. So DNS, at the DNS level, so as I said, DNS phishing can be done at the client side or the DNS level. At client side, what they are doing, they are changing the host file information. At the DNS level, they are doing that DNS spoofing and DNS hijacking and changing the IP address of the particular domain. So how they are going to detect at the DNS level attacks? Initially, what they are doing, so normally when you type www.google.com, so our system will ask the DNS server what is the IP address of the particular domain name. So instead of asking with the default DNS server, they are also asking the IP address from the third-party DNS server. Third-party DNS server will provide a set of IP addresses, and they cross-verify with that IP address provided by the default DNS server. If these two are matching, then they trust that particular website which we are going to visit is a trusted one. Like hash-based. So here, as I said earlier, that browser extension will store that information with our username and passwords, which will be hashed and stored in that browser extension. Whenever we are logging, it will provide that login information for the visitor sites. These are some existing works where, like, I took these papers based on that what are the data set, where the source of the data set and what are the size of the data set they took. So for phishing data set, where they took and what is the size of the data set. For legitimate sites, what are the sources they took and what is the size. So what are the features they took, whether they took email features or website features or URL features or social media features or DNS features. Whatever the features they consider for that particular paper has been listed here, and the approach used. As I listed the approaches, whatever the approaches they used has been mentioned here, and the algorithm, what is the algorithm they used here, and the performance in the point of like false positive, false negative rate, accuracy, precision has been listed over here, and the limitations of their works. As you see here, so the last three, you can see that they got 99.8% accuracy. So they got 98% of accuracy, but the problem is like they focus on only particular thing, either in email level or at the so website level. They are not completely detecting all the attacks. So this is the evolutionary roadmap of anti-phishing solutions. Till from before 2004 to till 2007, what are the anti-phishing approaches they developed based on the years? Before 2012, it is like only blacklist and whitelist. By using that, they are actually detecting whether the URL which we are visiting is phishing or not. So later they went for user website rating. They are asking the users to decide like whether the site which they are visiting is trusted or not. So later they went to crowdsourcing, restricted form filling, hash-based and machine learning. Later in 2007, that rule-based approaches, layout similarity, domain popularity. In 2008, you can see that email metadata and OTP. In 2010, the IP-based verification. Next, visual similarity, dummy content filling. 2011, text content similarity, watermarking, blockchain-based. 2012, steganography-based. 2017 behavior. Existing anti-phishing browser extensions. So in order to detect these phishing attacks, most of the authors, they are providing a browser extension. So when you install that browser extension in your browser, so while we are visiting, the browser extension will decide the URL which we are visiting is a trusted or not. So the existing, we consider 25 anti-phishing browser extensions. So based on these three criteria, like what is the maturity level, what is the mode of operation they are using. So maturity level is like whether it is a fully export browser extension or simply at a research level. As I showed in that main diagram, the pink colored one, which are like in the research articles they are provided the solution, but it is not available as a browser extensions. So the remaining which are available as a browser extensions, which have been listed here. So these are the browser extensions. So approach used, what type of anti-phishing approaches they use. So mode of operation, whether it is there are three types of mode of operations I mentioned over here. One is standalone, one is the server, one is the third party. The standalone means like whatever the browser extension we are searching, so the browser itself, based on the conditions which they have provided, it will decide whether the URL is phishing or not. So in the second thing is like the server, like when I am developing a browser extension, I will have a server where I will store all this information. So when the user clicks on that particular link, so it will send a request for me, like, and from based on the information provided in my server, it will show whether the URL is phishing or not. And the third one is like third parties. In third party, what they are doing, like there are some organizations, non-profit organizations like Anti-Phishing Working Group and phishtank.com, where they will provide the list of phishing URLs. So these browser extensions, what it will do, when I click on that particular URL, it will send a request to that third party servers, and they will verify whether this URL is listed over there or not. If it is listed over there, it will show it is as a phishing, or else it will be a trusted one. So some advantages and disadvantages of existing browser extensions, nearly 25 browser extensions. So these are the research questions I asked. The first one is like, what are the areas that the current anti-phishing solutions address? When compared to non-content based approaches, content based approaches are better in detecting phishing attacks. Because if there is any new type of attacks, that non-content based approach is very difficult for detecting, because if I have a list of blacklisting URLs, so when a new type of phishing URL is generated, it will not be updated in that blacklist. So when user is visiting that particular site, it may be treated as a trusted one. So that's why content based approaches is better when compared to non-content based approach. Content based approaches like rule based approaches and machine learning based approaches are good in detecting phishing when compared to the other approaches. Blockchain based approaches are better for detecting DNS level phishing attacks. So apart from that, for the remaining attacks, the rule based approach and machine learning based approaches are good for phishing detection. But the one thing is like in machine learning based approaches, there may be a chance for high false positive rates. So do the existing anti-phishing toolbars cover all the phishing attacks? Most of the anti-phishing toolbars works on a specific type of attacks. They only focus on a specific or a few attacks only, not the entire attacks. So what are the current research gaps in anti-phishing solutions? These are the areas where like a less number of works has been done. Mobile phishing, voice phishing, social media phishing, mainly social media phishing. Currently, as I said earlier, initially they're doing phishing at the email level. Later they went like they're at the website level. Later they went to poisoning the DNS, so that in normal phishing what they are doing, they are focusing on an individual person. So when you go for the DNS level, if I change that IP address of a particular domain in the DNS server, then those who are the server, users accessing the DNS server for that particular IP address, everyone will be directed to that fraudulent site. So more number of users are affected in that particular attack. Later what they did, they went to social media. If you go to social media, if anyone open my profile, so my name, my phone number, what are my activities, what are my daily activities, what are my likes, dislikes, everything will be listed, which is more than enough for an attacker to observe the activity of a user, so that he can target the individuals accordingly. So they can develop the fake news, they will send that spoofed URLs over there, likewise. So more work is required at social media phishing detection. So currently I am working on social media phishing detection. So that's it.